So it looks like the results are in. For the first question, are you 100% sure that you or your household has completed the 2020 census? About 74% of you guys said yes. A 3% said maybe, and then a 23% said no. And so we're going to share, Ivy's going to share a brief summary of our previous presentation on the census to help encourage you in that area. The second question is, did you work during the 2010 census or any previous census? About 16% said yes, about 84% said no. And so we know that the information today is going to really, benefit you, and we want to make sure that you get everything you need, the tools necessary to be successful in applying for a 2020 census employment opportunity. The third question was, are you familiar with the steps of applying for the 2020 census jobs? 23% said yes, 23% says a little bit, and then 55% said no. And so that let us know that, we do have some information for you we think will be greatly beneficial to you having a successful application and being able to hopefully work for the Census Bureau to help ensure the count. And so we got our results in. We're thankful for everyone who had the opportunity to complete the survey. And now we're going to pass it on to our amazing partners in the U.S. Census Bureau. Ivy, take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are so glad that you took the time to join us today. Thank you. On behalf of the U.S. Census Bureau, I have myself here with the community engagement team as a partnership specialist. We also have two wonderful colleagues from our local area census office. They happen to be based out of Southgate, but they will be working everywhere. And we have Luisa Suarez, our recruiting assistant, and Laura Corral, who is our recruiting manager. So we've got wonderful resources today. We're going to start off with what we will discuss today. So we'll give you a quick overview of a summary. As you see from our quick questions earlier, there still are some people who have not yet completed the census. And really, I know that some of you may have heard so much about the census, but if you can look at the next couple of slides as like, what information can I take from today that can help convince my friends and family to do the census, we'd appreciate that extra effort to make sure we get everyone counted. Then we'll talk about the different types of jobs available through the Census Bureau, as well as the qualifications. Of course, we'll talk about what to then expect during the job itself, also during the application process. We'll go step by step and even giving you 3 successful tips on how to apply, as well as what will happen next after you submit your application. We'll go over, I'll show you, at least in California, how many offices we do have. So when we talk about the census office, it is not just one within California, that there are numerous ones that you may be based out of. So I mentioned that because I'm assuming that everyone on this call may be from different parts of LA County. So that's why we wanted to show you that map. Lastly, we'll give you contact information on how to ask additional questions directly to the local area census office. And you'll also have 2 email addresses at the end of this presentation. So in case we're not able to get to your question during this time, you also have our email addresses. And again, as Ko and also Isaac mentioned, that follow-up survey, you can also insert your questions there. During our last presentation, we were able to answer those questions during the follow-up. And Isaac, I was so bummed to find out I don't have the ability to share my own reaction from the earlier conversation since I'm in presentation mode, but everyone know that I am here with you, and I wanted to clap for everyone's participation earlier. Thank you for indulging us with your responses.
I'll try not to make it that too personal.
So here is our quick slide about the job opportunities that we will discuss today. Primarily, we will be talking about the enumerators or census takers positions. As you saw in the email that went out, a majority of these positions do pay $25 an hour. So we'll talk about that today. And as you've heard, it is for extra income while helping the community. Flexible hours, you make your own schedule. Weekly pay, and even your training is paid for too. I have the YouTube link here because in the follow-up, I want you to be able to view that video once you receive that email. So let's go over a quick overview of the 2020 census. So in the next couple of slides, you'll see it both in English and Spanish also. So I will do the next couple of slides in English. So remember, it is quick and easy. If for those who have already done, I think we had about 20-ish people who have done the census. It probably took about 10 minutes to complete. Again, it's not too late. So please, if you're unsure if family and friends have even completed it, let them know to complete it. We have processes in place to make sure there's no duplication. So make sure to complete it. Everyone in your household, even if they are not related, even if they're just 1 day old as of Census Day on April 1st, we want them to be included so that we have the accurate numbers to make sure your communities get the funding that it needs. And lastly, it is safe and secure. Every single piece of information you provide to the Census Bureau will remain confidential. And you, as a worker with the Census Bureau, will swear a lifetime oath to make sure that you keep all this information confidential. And if not, we will also discuss the penalties for that. But again, all information is confidential. We do not even share this with your landlord in case you have extra friends or families who happen to be living with you at this time. All of this remains confidential just to ensure that we can help the community the next 10 years. And again, I'm so sorry I cannot see the chat function when I am in presentation mode, but we do have our team who's looking over the chat function and will address questions during the questions and answers. So as a quick overview here, I want to remind you that when we have an accurate count, that's when our community is able to properly respond. For cases like natural disasters, emergency responders look back at our census data to see how many people do they need to help when there were fires, when there were earthquakes, even for COVID-19. We have health personnel and also other decision makers that look back at census data to see how many people are really going to get affected in this neighborhood, for example. Also with small businesses, people will look at census data to see where they should open up a new business. So let's go on to the next slide. And last two slides that I have for you is to remind you how you can respond. So for those who have not yet responded, or for those who don't know if their friends or relatives may have responded, please let them know there is a toll-free number that they can call, and also multiple ways to respond, even online. Even if you lost your invitation that we mailed to you, do not worry. There is a way that you can still respond to the census. And again, as you know, if you do not respond to the census, that's when we'll have our amazing census takers and enumerators to help follow up. And those are the positions we'll talk about today. And this is my last slide for you, and the following slide will be in Spanish, is to emphasize that all information we collect is protected by Title 13 of the US Code. That cannot be broken. All information is only reported in statistical format only. For example, if someone wanted to start a business, a new childcare business, they may look at census data to see where will we have a lot of kids 0 to 5 in this part of LA County. Perhaps we can start up a new childcare center in this area, because in the next couple of years, we will still have a sizable population in that community. Also, please know that we do not, even though the Census Bureau falls under the Department of Commerce as a government agency, we do not and are not allowed to share any personal information with any government agency. We do not share information with law enforcement. We do not share information with immigration. None of this information is shared with enforcement agencies. That's why we also do not hire law enforcement as well. So please know that all information is protected, and the purpose of this is to help the communities in the next 10 years until 2030 census. And lastly, if you are applying for these jobs, do know that you will also swear a lifetime oath to protect all respondent information. Even if your duration with the Census Bureau is just for a few weeks, you will swear that lifetime oath. This is how serious we take all information that's provided to the US Census Bureau. And the next slide will be in Spanish, and then we'll go into the details about the jobs. And Luisa and Laura, if you are available to discuss the slide, feel free to take it on from here.
Yes, so I'll go ahead and briefly discuss this in Spanish. Hello, everybody. My name is Laura Corral, and I'll go ahead and get started. So, mi nombre es Laura Corral. Voy a hablar sobre la información y la confidencialidad de lo que viene siendo la encuesta con el Census. So, el Census pasa cada 10 años y basado en las respuestas, eso va a determinar cómo el gobierno federal va a alocar dinero a nuestras comunidades. Toda la información es confidencial y no va a ser compartida con ninguna otra agencia, ni siquiera con los dueños de apartamento. So, es importante que usted la llene con honestidad, con cuánta gente vive en su casa desde el 1 de abril de 2020. Una vez más, me gusta enfocarme que la información es confidencial y no se va a compartir con ninguna otra agencia. La encuesta es bien rápida, se puede hacer por internet o por teléfono también. Sus datos son confidenciales. La oficina del censo está obligada por una ley estricta y el solemne compromiso de proteger la información confidencial que recopilamos. La ley del título 13 del Código de los Estados Unidos asegura que toda la información recopilada por la Oficina del Census de los Estados Unidos se utilizará solamente para propósitos estadísticos. El juramento. Todos los empleados de la Oficina del Census toman un juramento de por vida para proteger la confidencialidad de toda la información obtenida por la agencia. Las multas. La penalidad por el delito de divulgar indebidamente información protegida por el título 13 del Código de los Estados Unidos es una multa de hasta $250,000 o hasta 5 años de cárcel o ambas. Seguridad en la era del Internet. La Oficina del Censo protege su información mediante contraseñas encriptadas o codificación y otras salvaguardias tecnológicas.
Thank you so much, Lara. And then now we will discuss the different types of jobs that are available. So again, thank you all for listening to another reminder about the 2020 census, how important it is. So you yourself will be trained in that knowledge when you become a census worker. So our recruiting team, Laura and Luisa, will take it again from here for the types of jobs available.
Yeah, I'm just gonna quickly, for those that speak Spanish, I'm just gonna go ahead and make mention of the job opportunities for them to go ahead and pass on the information, and then I'll pass it on to Luisa. Una de las cosas que quisiera mencionar es que ahorita la oficina del US Census Bureau está ofreciendo oportunidades de empleo. La compensación empieza en $25 para ser una enumeradora. Y estas posiciones no requieren que la gente tenga nada de experiencia. Ahorita vamos a hablar de las formas que la gente pueda aplicar para participar en una oportunidad de empleo, que sé que ahorita nos encontramos en una situación donde mucha gente ha perdido empleo. También nos gusta enfocarnos en dejarle a gente en la comunidad que ahorita el censo está buscando a gente interesada en empleo. Puede trabajar de 20 a 40 horas a la semana. Usted decide su disponibilidad a trabajar y no se requiere experiencia para las oportunidades de empleo. Sí se requiere un cierto nivel de comprensión en inglés porque el entrenamiento es en el idioma de inglés, pero todas las preguntas son electrónicamente y usted básicamente las contesta a lo que es debido a sus respuestas. Si usted conoce a alguien que esté buscando una oportunidad de empleo, por favor déjele saber que ahorita el Census está buscando a gente. El Census toma lugar en todos los Estados Unidos, o si usted tiene familiares en Florida, Texas, Nevada, cualquier estado dentro de los Estados Unidos estamos ahorita empleando. Una vez más, me quisiera nada más enfocar de que no se requiere experiencia para estas oportunidades de empleo. Si usted es ciudadano, puede aplicar, pero si no tiene ciudadanía, pero tiene el número de residencia para trabajo, ese número lo puede utilizar para poder aplicar para esta posición. Se requiere nada más de que tenga 18 años de edad o más. Vamos a empezar en la porción de lo que viene siendo de las oportunidades de de empleo. Y luego también vamos a hablar de la página de internet donde se pueden meter para aplicar. Al final de la presentación, ahí va a estar toda la información. Hablaré sobre eso en español para que usted pueda compartir esa información con alguna familiar. So now we're going to go ahead and get started on the English portion. Can you go back? Oh yeah, go forward. All right, there we go. So the types of jobs available would be a good one. Okay, perfect. So Luisa will go ahead and start on this.
Hello, this is Luisa Suarez. So we have many positions available with the census, entry-level positions which do not require a resume or any references. We have from office clerks, office operations supervisors, census field supervisors, enumerators, which are the census takers, and recruiting assistants. Pay does start at $22.50 to $27.50 per hour. When you do apply, the minimum qualifications are to be at least 18 years of age, have a valid social security number, be a U.S. citizen, or have a work permit, have a valid email address, complete an application and answer assessment questions, be registered with the Selective Service System, or have a qualifying exemption if you are a male born after December 31st, 1959. If you're a male and you do not know your Selective Service number, when you do apply, it will prompt you to a link where you can input your information such as your social security, your date of birth, your first and your last name, and it will tell you that Selective Service number, or it will tell you if you do not have that number. If you do not have that Selective Service number, and if you never registered and you're under the age of 25, you can register. Or if you're over the age of 25, then you could send a letter with the circumstances on why you never registered for the Selective Service, and then they will exempt you, or they will tell you why you are not exempted, or basically like pardoned from not registering for the Selective Service if you're a male. You have to pass a census-performed criminal background check and review of criminal records, including fingerprinting, which is all paid for by the census. Nothing comes out of your pocket. You must complete the training, be available to work flexible hours, which can include days, evenings, or weekends. Most jobs require employees to have access to a vehicle and a valid driver's license unless public transportation is readily available. Have access to a computer with internet and email account. Remember, working with the census, if as an enumerator, you can make your own hours, your own schedule. You'll be able to tell your supervisor the days that you want to work and the hours that you want to work. But when you're applying, I encourage everybody to put down that you're available 40 hours, because remember, you can pick your own hours, make your own schedule. Yeah, that's basically it. It's fairly easy. All you need to do is go to the census webpage, which is the 2020census.gov/jobs. When you do go into that page, you're going to click on the apply button, and then it's going to send you to a different page where it's going to say first-time applicant or returning applicant. If you're a first-time applicant, you're going to click on the first-time applicant, and it's going to send you to another page where you create your profile. You're going to input your basic information such as your first name, your last name, your valid email address, your phone number, and the password. The password seems to be the trickiest for everybody because it is 12 to 20 digits long. But remember, this password you have to remember because in case you do get that call back for a job offer, you're going to have to log back into the system in order to put your information such as your pay and all of that other type of information. And also, if you need to update any type of information such as your email address or your home address or your phone number or anything, you need to remember that password. It is very important, even though it is a very long password.
So kind of go ahead and just touching up on that. So I know that sometimes when we create a password, we get super creative where we're like, oh, this is a great password. Nobody's ever going to guess it. Well, and sometimes we don't even guess it ourselves. That's why we highly encourage that you go ahead and you write down the password, because this is going to be important for you to log back into the system. to go ahead and complete anything that needs to be taken care of. Or let's go ahead and say that you applied for the census back in October of 2019, and you moved in February of 2020 to another location. You want to update the system with the most recent information. So once you go ahead and go to the website, www.2020census.gov/jobs, it's going to go ahead and take you to that link where you go ahead and click on apply now. And then after you click on apply now, it's going to take you to the next page where it's a first time applicants registering here. Now, many of you could have possibly worked for the census 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. However many years ago, you would still be considered a first time applicant under this portal. This is the first time the US Census is doing everything online. So we highly encourage that you go ahead and click on first time applicant, even though you've worked for the census previously. One of the questions under the assessment exam is going to be, have you ever worked for the US Census Bureau or for a government agency job? And at that point, you're going to go ahead and click yes, and then you're going to go ahead and complete it. And then go next slide, please. So go back. Sorry. So you're going to create that profile as Luisa touched on, where you input your first name, last name, your email address, your phone number, and that password. The password has to be at least 12 characters long. That includes one uppercase, one lowercase, one special character, and one number. That's really important for you to go ahead and get that password. And we also recommend that you write down the password, because if you need to log back into the system for whatever reason to check on your application status and so forth, it's going to go ahead and ask you for that email and that password. And after after 3 failed attempts in the system, you're locked out of the system for 1 hour. You don't want to be locked out. We highly encourage people to go ahead and apply today. We're looking to go ahead and hire 900 people within the next couple of days. So there's a huge opportunity at hand for many people out there. So once you go ahead and you register, you're going to go ahead and get an email. The email is going to go ahead and send you to a link to completing the application. You're going to go ahead and log in with that email and that password that you created. And then you're going to see this screen that we see on this slide now, which is complete the application. And you're going to click on the right-hand side where it says apply. You're going to go ahead and require to input personal information such as your name, your address, and social security number. Now, we highly encourage that you go ahead and put your home address, because you're going to work out of the area that you live in. So many of us like to go ahead and put our mom's address or our dad's, because that's where we like to get all our mail. But let's say that our parents live in like Pacoima, Sylmar, Long Beach, and we live in downtown LA. That's going to be quite a long commute to get to work. So your best bet is to just go ahead and, input the address that you reside in so that you can work locally close to home. Next slide, please. So it is a personal assessment exam where you describe your education, work, and other experiences which relate to a successful job performance. So example of a question could be, my previous supervisor or teacher, if not previously employed, would likely describe myself discipline as superior, above average, average, below average, do not know. Then you're going to go ahead and click on next as you go ahead and complete the assessment exam. Now let's go ahead and say that you have a family emergency, you're halfway through the application. Make sure you go ahead and click on save and exit so that you could go ahead and log back in at a later time to complete the other half of your application. Next slide, please. So once you go ahead and complete your application, you're going to go ahead and be able to go ahead and click on returning applicant. And when you click on returning applicant, that's how you're able to go ahead and go back into the system to go ahead and make any changes as needed in your application. Okay, if there's anything outstanding, anything that needs to be uploaded, or anything that's incomplete, you're going to go ahead and click on returning applicant. So staying on this slide real quick, remember how earlier I mentioned to you guys that when you go onto the website and you're going to click on first time applicant, you register and so forth, and then you're going to get an email link. The email link is going to essentially direct you to this web page, and you're going to click at that point as a returning applicant. If for any reason, let's say it's been 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe even half an hour, and you still haven't received an email after you registered, go ahead and go back to this web page that we see here and click on returning applicant. And then when you click on returning applicant, it's going to ask you for your email and your password. And then you're probably going to have to go ahead and verify your email, and then the application will get sent to you. That's kind of like an easy hack for those of us that are going to get a delayed application. I know I've come across that a couple of times when helping people out in the field. Next slide, please. So census offices. So the census is actually hiring nationwide. So if you have family members in anywhere in the United States, please encourage them to go ahead and apply. We find ourselves in a situation that we've never seen before, where there's currently a high unemployment rate and many people are seeking job opportunities. So please share the information that the census is hiring. As you can see, in the state of California, we have many offices. It's actually the state that has the most offices. So we are hiring everywhere. So if you have family anywhere, let them know that they are hiring. You are going to be working remotely close to home. So if you take a look at the area census offices, it kind of gives you an idea of whatever is closer to you, where you could go ahead and work out of. Luisa and myself, we are actually out of the Southgate offices here in LA County. Next slide, please. So if you want to go ahead and move forward in applying, please apply online. You do not need to upload a resume. You're just going to go to www.2020census.gov/jobs and apply. If any of you have applied already and you haven't heard back, I highly encourage that you call the 855-562-2020 number for them to go ahead and give you an update status on your application. Unfortunately, we do not have access to the application database to go ahead and review or further assist as needed. We've come across people who have applied before in the past, but their application is actually incomplete. So we highly encourage you to go ahead and call the number 855-562-2020 for a status update on your application. Now, if any of you, for whatever reason, yes, the number is 855-562-2020. Once again, the contact number is 855-562-2020. Now, this is a number that you could call not only for a status update on your application, but let's say you get locked out of the system, you're having trouble navigating through the website, you need technical support. This is also a great number for you to call to get further assistance. For any job information as well. And if you include your zip code to get directed to your servicing area census office. So let's go ahead and say that you call this number and they tell you, oh, your application is actually complete. You could go ahead and at that point ask them if they could provide you with the local census number that you would be working out of, so that you could call that office personally and inquire on the status of your application. Just let them know, hey, I called this number. They advised that this would be the local census office that I would be working out of. I was just inquiring to see the status on my application and so forth. Now, let's go ahead and say that you wanted to go ahead and you applied for the census and you were really looking forward to being a recruiter. And when you get a job offer, they're offering you an enumerator position. The enumerators are the ones that are going to go out on the field to go ahead and further assist in collecting data. Now, at that point, you could go ahead and when you speak to someone, inquire if there are any other job positions available, because the job position that you are interested in is an office clerk. The job position that we are looking to employ a lot of people, it is an enumerator position. The enumerator position essentially consists of you going on the field, knocking on doors in residency areas to go ahead and collect data. There have been many people that have not completed the census survey. And we are taking precautions with social distancing and making sure that you are provided with equipment to be safe on the field. You will be provided with gloves, hand sanitizers, and face masks to go ahead and protect you. And of course, keeping the social distancing guidelines. Information on that would be provided during training on how to go ahead and effectively navigate through this pandemic that we find ourselves in, to make sure that you are safe and you are taken care of. You will be provided with the equipment that you need when you're out on the field. So the enumerator position, the pay starts at $25 an hour. It's great pay. You are paid on a weekly basis, and you are contracted with the census for 8 weeks. So for example, as long as you show up to work, as long as you put in the work, and you go ahead and do your job ethically and with integrity, you will go ahead and probably get your contract renewed within another 8 weeks. Luisa and myself, we got contracted back a few months ago. We're already probably reaching our 1 year with the census. So as you can tell, as long as you show up to work, you work with integrity, ethically, and you go ahead and, you know, show results for your work, then you'll go ahead and get your contract renewed. The great thing about working for the U.S. Census Bureau is that you are considered a federal government employee. So when it comes to further job opportunities down the line, working for the federal government definitely does go ahead and open the doors for future government employment opportunities, because at that point you would have passed a background check. So a lot of times with government jobs, since you already passed the background check, it's a lot easier to go ahead and kind of like navigate through the job opportunities that are available. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and review the chat box to go ahead and answer some questions. Let's see. For those of you that have completed your census survey, thank you so much. Please go ahead and make sure that you share with members in your community and family, friends to participate on the census survey. We also have a Facebook group that you could go ahead and, you know, friend request us. And you could also go ahead and share. A lot of information is on that webpage. I know that many of us, we navigate through social media platforms, much like Facebook and Instagram. There is also a U.S. Census Bureau group where you could go ahead and join and share census information with your friends on Facebook. And that's important because there's information about children being accounted for, where data is used for, especially with COVID. We are seeing a need for more hospitals. So it's important that members in our community go ahead and participate in this survey, so that we make sure that federal funded is allocated in our communities as needed. I know the Southeast Los Angeles area was actually the lowest participation rate 10 years ago. And we're really working really hard to increasing those numbers. Over 1 million kids were unaccounted for 10 years ago. And that's also important because children are our future. We want to make sure that they have updated textbooks in their classrooms. Let's go ahead and see. What's another question? For those of you that have applied, as I mentioned to you, please go ahead and call that number to go ahead and get a status update on your application. So if you are not a U.S. citizen, but you applied, you went ahead and you put in your residency number, that wouldn't go ahead and automatically take you out of the pool of applicants. Like I mentioned, we go ahead and submit the information to a different department for them to review the application. Based on your response on the application, that does determine the job that's the best fit for you. So how many weeks will a person be employed for? People will go ahead and be employed for 8 weeks. Based on your performance, you go ahead and get renewed for another 8 weeks. So Melindy Baham, I see that you registered and haven't received your confirmation email. Go ahead and go back to that webpage, the 2020 census.gov/jobs, and click on apply, of course. but click on registered returning applicant. When you click on returning applicant, it's going to ask you to input your email and the password that you created. And then at that point, it's going to ask you to confirm your email. When you confirm your email, you should be getting the link to complete your application. So we do go ahead, Sandy, and encourage everybody to go ahead and apply. If you have a misdemeanor, I'm not sure what it was for, but go ahead and apply, because on the application, if you go ahead and input something that would not go ahead and validate you from being a prospective applicant, you'll go ahead and get that information on the application. So we do go ahead and encourage people to apply, because we don't have access to navigating who does or doesn't apply based on a misdemeanor. How will we be going? So you would go ahead and work independently. You get to set your own hours based on your availability. So you could go ahead and work alone, or go ahead and, once you go ahead and start training, if you come across a team member that you're both assigned to work out of the same neighborhood, and maybe that neighborhood is not the safest, your supervisor would probably go ahead and authorize at that point that you kind of like team up with somebody, but maintaining social distancing guidelines. But make sure you go ahead and team up with somebody so that you guys could both work around the same area. Maybe you guys working together would go ahead and entail essentially one of you walking on one side of the street and the other person walking on across on the other street. If an area is too unsafe, make sure you go ahead and tell your supervisor so that your supervisor could go ahead and further assist you in the best measures for you to go ahead and, navigate through those situations. So any remote jobs. So for jobs that are available, you are working relatively close from home. From the listed job opportunities that we're presenting, the one that we are currently hiring for is enumerators. Now, we still go ahead and encourage people to apply, because when you get a job offer extended, if at that time you decide you do not want to be an enumerator, you do not wish to be out in the field, then at that time you could inquire if there's any clerical job positions available where you could work out of the office. At that point, they could go ahead and look into the database and see if there's any of those jobs available. So when they look for a background check, they essentially look for like felonies, misdemeanors, where you lived in the last 5 years. They ask that you go ahead and indicate, 3 points of contact that know you very well. They ask you about your education background, what's the highest level of education attained. Those kind of questions are asked during your background check. So, yes, it could possibly be 16 weeks of work. I know Census employment is projected to wrap around the end of October. That's kind of like the projected day of when we think we should be wrapping up work within the census. So when you go ahead and you apply, you go ahead and you're applying essentially to work for the Census Bureau. Based on your response on the self-assessment exam, that's going to determine the job that's the best fit for you. So when you go ahead and you get a job offer extended, at that point, you go ahead and inquire on the job opportunities that are available if the job offer that you're being offered is not what you were looking for at the time. So the work that you would be working is either you would be most likely working out in the field, because those are the job positions that are currently available, is work on the field where you would go ahead and be interacting with local community members. So the nice thing is that you work close to home and nobody knows your community better than you, so you have access to, of course, reaching out to your community members. For those people that get a job offer at the office, you do work based out of the office. So there is currently no work positions for anybody to work from home at this time. So is mileage included? Yes, mileage is included for those that work out on the field. All right, so those are all the questions I am seeing in the chat box. And yeah, I'll go ahead and turn it back to Ivy, Isaac.
So Ms. Laura, before you go, I did get a question prior, and the question was this: if a person is currently receiving unemployment insurance, will applying for a job or being hired or with the 2020 census affect that unemployment insurance? Or with a person who's already working with being hired with the U.S. Census Bureau working for the 2020 census affect their employment?
So if you are currently on unemployment and you become employed with the U.S. Census Bureau, yes, it would probably affect your unemployment compensation that you're receiving. And you also don't want to lie to the unemployment office about your job. So I would go ahead and encourage you to go ahead and be truthful at that point. For those that essentially currently have a job and apply for the census, if you want to go ahead and work both jobs, whatever your availability is, however flexible your schedule is, you're more than welcome to do so. However, because this is a federal government job, we are a bipartisan affiliation. So we do not go ahead and make reference to politics or give our insight to what we believe or don't believe. So as long as your current job doesn't conflict with that, or you're currently not working on for a presidential campaign with any organization, that would be something that would be conflicting with the U.S. Census Bureau. But other than that, if you could go ahead and let's say you're a teacher and you want to go ahead and make extra income and you think you could go ahead and navigate through both jobs, well then, you're more than welcome to go ahead and apply.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Laura. Ms. Ivy, is there anything additional?
Thank you so much, Laura and Luisa, for sharing that information. You truly are the recruiting experts. We appreciate it. I did want to remind everyone too that when you do the assessments, that you may ask if you have any type of experience with doing supervision, and we do strongly recommend for you to also fill out that additional set of questions. You never know if you might be qualified for that position, and if you are like me and my friends and family, I think we often not see ourselves with that type of position. And I really want to encourage you to answer the questions as our recruiters shared honestly, and you may be eligible for higher pay, and something that you didn't think was something that was supervisory may have been. So it doesn't hurt to try. Again, as this was shared earlier, we ourselves as recruiters are not the ones who are the qualifiers for any certain misdemeanor. So all we can do is tell people apply, and the background check that is paid for by the Census Bureau will go ahead and find out if, depending, again, it depends on what it is, it may be very minor as well. So do not discount yourself if you haven't already tried. We encourage you. And for any details in regards to the question for unemployment, we'll follow up. That's a unique circumstance now because of COVID as to prior. So I'm going to check also to see if we have any specific things in writing that we can share with you, if I can sit through that. And then we have one last question. Can I request a partner to go in the field? I believe Laura may have mentioned this already, and it does depend. I think if you do have someone, if you know of someone else, during training that may be in the same sites to do your own schedule. You may want to coordinate to say that you're going to be working, blocks nearby one another. So that will be answered in details during training. And I think once you go through training, you will be empowered to know how much you can do this. So please apply, give it a shot. I also showed you some links as well. Aside from the 2020 census jobs, we still have ongoing jobs with the Census Bureau. If you go to usajobs.gov, also census.gov/field jobs, in the chat function of what I shared earlier, these jobs will require resumes, but the 2020 census jobs do not. And it could take from what I heard, applications may take about maybe 30 minutes to complete. So you could actually do that after this call if you have a little bit of a break and apply as soon as possible. As what Laura mentioned, 900 job offers, I believe, are being made very soon. Please be encouraged. And also, is there any permanent opportunities with the census? The Census Bureau does do a bunch of other surveys, not just this every 10-year survey. So yes, if you go to those links that I mentioned in the above chat, you may be able to do so. I got a private message on that. We have 2 more questions too, if Laura and Luisa are still on the line. What will you be doing for employees working in offices if offices are supposed to be closed per Gavin Newsom? And also, will we be contacted by phone or email for employment offer? So from what I know, parts of the census, because it is considered something that is essential, there are protocols that are in place. So even the area census offices do have protocols to have social distancing themselves, since the 2020 census can no longer be further delayed. However, I will default to Laura to speak more about that in regards to offices being closed.
So thank you for that. Yes, currently all census offices are opened. This is something that is considered essential. The census survey is something that takes place every 10 years. So we want to make sure that everybody is accounted for. Essentially, we are maintaining social distancing guidelines within the office parameters. So offices, desks are set up in a way where people are at least 6 feet away, and all employees are required to wear face masks. There's also hand sanitizer and so forth available at the office. So we are abiding to all regulations that our governor has advised.
Thank
And
you.
Ms. Laura, there was one more question. The last question was, will they be contacted for those who submit an application by phone or email for the employment offer?
So if you go ahead and get the job offer, they're going to go ahead and call you from the local census office. So I know many times we get incoming calls from a number that we don't recognize, we don't answer. This is the first time I'm probably going to say answer the phone call, because it's going to go ahead and probably be the local census office number. I unfortunately do not have access to all the census office numbers, unfortunately. But it is going to be coming in from an area code that's within your home vicinity. So if you get a number from like a 323, 427, or whatever number comes in and you don't recognize it, answer the phone, because it could be a job opportunity. I know that many times they don't leave voicemails. I don't know why, but that's something that's out of our control. But if let's say you missed the number and you were in the restroom and you couldn't answer the phone at that time, go ahead and call that number back. And at that point, they'll be like, "Hi, U.S. Census Office, how can I help you?" Then you know it was a job offer for you. But if you call back and it's a telemarketer, well, then you just hang back up, right? That would go ahead and kind of like be my advice for you to navigate through that situation.
Thank you so much, Laura. I would echo that. I've heard people miss calls that were being offered, and from what I hear, the recruiters need to go and fill these positions as soon as possible. So make sure not to miss those calls. Yes, Kale.
So we would like to first and foremost thank the U.S. Census Bureau and the employment recruitment team, Ms. Ivy, Ms. Laura, Lucia, and everybody that is a part of this wonderful census chat today. To my counterpart, Isaac, for all the support, in the IT area and helping us to make sure we have a very successful census chat today, and to all of our family and friends for joining us. As the Census Bureau has indicated to you all, if you'd like to apply to the jobs, go to 2020census.gov/jobs, and really be able to look and see if there's something for you. Generally speaking, there's something for everyone, and there's an opportunity for everyone. We will be sending a follow-up email. If you have any additional questions, please submit it to us so we can get it over to the Census Bureau, so they can make sure that your questions are answered, and any support that they can provide to you is available to you. You can also follow them at U.S. Census Bureau. And they will love to have you follow them on social media, or you can join, in their group that's on Facebook that was mentioned by Ms. Laura earlier. Again, apply. These are opportunities, for our families and our friends and in your neighbors. So make sure everyone know about these opportunities that are available to them. Again, we are so appreciative to the Census Bureau joining us again, to be able to ensure that our families and friends, understand the things that are available to them, as far as the 2020 census jobs, but as well as informing them on why it's important to be counted. Again, this is our community, so it makes it our count. I am your host, the one and only, the Census Guy, and we thank you for joining us. We will be sending a follow-up email if you have any more questions. Thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you very soon.
One last thing. Sorry to interrupt on that. I know that some people have expressed that they are getting calls from the U.S. Census. The U.S. Census Bureau will not call you unless you call into a call center, inquiring for further assistance in completing the survey. So I highly encourage that you go ahead and become aware of that, so that you don't give information out to somebody that is being mischievous. And you keep in mind that the information that you're being asked is, you're not going to be asked anything about social security numbers nor credit card information. None of that. Essentially is how many people live in your household, the gender of all people that are under your household, the age, along with their birthdays, and race and ethnicity. Those are the essential questions on the survey. So for those that are people in your community that say, oh, I'm getting calls from the census, it's not the U.S. Census Bureau. The U.S. Census Bureau department does have a call center to further assist people over the phone in completing the census survey. But they're not going to start calling people to go ahead and collect information, only for those people that inquired on further assistance on that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Laura, for that information. That is so true. We want everyone to be aware, to really take safety precautions to make sure that, the calls that you're receiving is directly from the locations in which you are contacting, and or it's the job opportunity, and that you have applied for. And so we want to make sure that everyone knows to take safety precaution. It's very important, especially today, more than any time, for us to be safe. We want to make sure that all our family and friends are safe and healthy. And again, we thank you to the U.S. Census Bureau, and from the job recruitment team, and as well as Ms. Ivy from Partnerships, for helping us bring the Census Chat to you all. We look forward to seeing you again. Thank you and have a safe day.